If you have seen our channel, our mom's channel, you know we talk a lot about language.
Yes.
Appalachian language, Appalachian vocabulary test, corruptions of normal grammatically correct words. And in today's video, we're going to talk about words that we say wrong that just ain't right. And then we're going to talk about words that we kind of say in the Appalachian language that others might think are wrong, but they're just part of the Appalachian language. We're going to talk a little bit about accents. We just want to talk about how we talk. We thought this would be an interesting video. And if you were to go to other places in Appalachia, the kind of words that we're saying wrong, people would never skip a beat. They would never think about it. Wherever you go where there's a dialect or a language, those same people understand what you mean. So it's kind of just old hat. You never really bat an eye. But occasionally I'll drop a few words, even in front of people like, even Nick maybe, or Austin, or just different people. And they'll be like, what does that mean? One time I told Nick, I said, man, that person, they passed, talking about somebody on the 4-lane. I was like, I was going 60. And I'm like, that's really fast to me. And I said, they come up on me and they were flat hauling the mail. And he was like, but the mail people aren't supposed to go 60. They have to keep stopping to put mail in mailboxes. And I was like, no, I'm not talking about the mail people. I mean, the person, the pedestrian, whoever it was in the van, was flat hauling the mail. And he's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. He literally thought I was talking about a U.S. Postal Service worker. And I'm talking about driving too fast. So if someone's driving too fast, moving too fast, doing something at some sort of high rate of speed, then you say they were flat hauling the mail. And there's lots of other phrases like that, other words. One for me that comes to mind is that one time Austin was talking to me, and he said, oh, I was talking to I can't remember who it was on the phone. Maybe it was his uncle. Could have even been a coworker. And I said, oh, okay, what'd they allow? And he looked at me, and I said, what'd they allow? And he looked at me, and he said, what are you saying? I said, what did they allow? And that's a phrase of saying, what did they say? Well, what did he allow? What did they allow? Just, what did they say when you talked to them? That's all it is, but he had never heard it phrased like that. Or occasionally I'll say, what was his news? Yeah. Like I say that too, like, well, what was her news? And people will be like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, what did she tell you? What was the news? What was the report? Anything like that. A few other things that are very popular for Appalachians would be ideal instead of idea. This is something my mom says a lot. So instead of saying, I've got an idea, she might say, I've got an ideal. Or, do you have an ideal instead of idea? She says that a lot. Of course, Appalachians are very famous for putting ER on lots of stuff. Especially, you don't hear it as much anymore, but people would put it on names. So instead of Sarah, like Sari. And you don't hardly hear that much anymore, but a lot of people put ER on things. And then something that we do a lot is we put an A on stuff. So we don't say window, we say window, tomato, potato. Trying to think of other ones like that. We just finish it off with an A, and that's, I guess that's technically not grammatically correct. I mean, if I were to spell window, I would spell it with an O-W and not an A, but that's just kind of adaptation. Pep would say narrow instead of narrow. He would say that's a narrow space, and I knew what he meant. And on some of the recordings, like if they were singing gospel songs, sometimes they would talk about like wide is the way and narrow's the gate or something like that. He would say narrow's the gate. And I know narrow is the gate, but he's saying narrow's the gate. Yeah. So he's not even saying is. Replacing the OW's with an A. And replacing is with an S on the word before it. Narrow's the gate. Yeah. Potatoes for supper. Yes. Instead of like potatoes are for supper, potatoes, it's you're cutting that little word out. And if I knew anything about grammar, I could tell you what word that is. Anything, I'd be like verbs, nouns, contractions, not something you have when you're pregnant. What? Whatever. Yeah, so there's lots of interesting things, 2 really interesting words, and then we're going to have to move on from this part of this video. Could be so long because there's so much awesome Appalachian language. And we'll leave a link in the description below for our mom's channel and maybe some of her videos because she's got awesome stuff on Appalachian language. But 2 other really cool words, Appalachian would be cattywampus or side-goggling, and it just means that something is crooked. I've used cattywampus. I'd be like, look at that. It ain't right now. It's all cattywampus. It's really interesting. But there's some words in this house that we say that are just plain wrong. Namely, me and Mom. Occasionally, I'll do it too. The other day, I said it's a mute point. And Nick was like, we had a big fight over that. Not really big fight. He's like, what are you talking about? And I said, it's a mute point. Meaning it's just pointless, it don't matter. He said, no, Katie, it's a moot point. If it was a mute point, mute means silent or quiet. And I was like, I looked it up, I was wrong. It's a not a mute, but a moot point. That's, you know, so things like that. Everybody knew what I was saying, but I had it wrong.
I don't think I realized that because I say mute too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's
and
moot.
it's just what we've heard. But then after you've said, that's the thing about these words that maybe we say wrong. After you've said them one way for so long, it's like impossible for me to go back and say them the right way.
So what are some others?
I'm sorry, I'm just excited. You're fine. You're right. Let's keep moving. So a few words from me, and before we get a bunch of comments saying, you know, like you're just saying, you know, grammatically incorrect words and you're making yourself look stupid and you shouldn't talk like that. This is just the way we talk, and we're proud of it. Even some of the words we say wrong.
That's right.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. So some of the words that I say wrong, one of them would be menopause. I don't say menopause, I say metapause. And somewhere along the way, I heard people talking about it, probably when I was little, and heard it as metapause. So I've always said metapause instead of menopause.
Which you're like the only one. I'm here to tell you. You'd
but
be
I
the
can't
only
help
one
it.
to say that.
I've went all through my life saying that, and now it sounds really weird to me. I feel like I would be untrue to myself to say it the other way.
I don't know.
Another one that I say wrong is instead of laptop, I say labtop.
Actually, I said that for a really long time.
So I would say, like, you know, I need to go get my laptop.
Instead of laptop, because it's a computer that sits in your lap.
But I've always said lab.
That one took me a while to get, I'm not going to lie.
Another one that I say wrong is, I can't say it the right way. Stall, but I say style. So style is a word, but it would be referring to like a style as like how you dress or something. But if I were going to say like a style that was in a barn or a bathroom style, I know it's supposed to be, I didn't know it for many years that it was supposed to be stall.
Barn stall.
But I can't hardly say that. I say style. So I would say like bathroom style, barn style, just, you know, meaning the space in there, but
wrong.
I can't really help it.
What are some other ones? Mom said some really funny stuff.
So
lately.
Mom has definitely sometimes said some stuff, and I don't think it's because she really pronounces these words this way, but she just maybe had other stuff on her mind and it come out wrong. But we kind of keep like a mental list of stuff.
We do, and we bring them back up.
And we bring them back up because it's funny. So I was talking to her the other day, and she said conundrum. And I looked at her real close, and I said, say that again. She said conundrum. I said, Mom, do you mean conundrum? And she was like... And her reaction to it is always real funny because she just doesn't really say much. She just kind of smiles and changes the subject.
One time, instead of saying salmonella, like you had salmonella poisoning, she was like, she somehow cut part of the word out and was like, salmonella.
She's like salmonella poisoning.
She did say it like that. I don't know why.
What are you saying, Mom?
She's like, salmonella. And I was like, salmonella?
Another word that Mom says, she just has a different pronunciation of this word. She says, I don't know of another way to say it than that. She says pronunciation instead of pronunciation.
No, she says pronunciation, which is not. It's, she puts like an extra syllable in there.
Yeah.
Pronunciation.
She just doesn't really say that right. And then she says, I would say styrofoam, but she says styrofoam. And that's not wrong.
She says styrofoam.
Or styrofoam. So you have to comment below and let us know which way you say it. But I say it, you have to let us know if you say it styrofoam like I do, or do you say it like Mom
styrofoam
and stay kind of styrofoam.
I don't think that's right. I don't know. I mean, I think it would probably be accurate to say that lots of people have different ways of pronouncing things. And sometimes it's just different pronunciations. I said it that time too. Pronunciations, but some of it's just flat wrong. Like when Corey said menopause, that's not real. That's not a word. That's not a thing.
I know that's not right, but it's just the way I've said it for so long that it feels like I
can't go back now.
That I can't go back now. Another funny thing that this makes me think of is there's a story that we've been told a lot growing up that when our dad was living with our mom's parents before they got married, him and Mom's brother, Paul, our uncle, were watching TV one night or something, and they were talking about soap.
And an ad on the TV.
An ad on the TV, and Mama's daddy was saying, yeah, that soap that's got that anesthesia in it. And he meant to say antiseptic, and apparently Paul and Dad just absolutely just horse laughed, and it made Pap really mad.
Oh no!
And they always talked about that because he said the soap had anesthesia instead of antiseptic, and I'm sure that he meant antiseptic, but in his mind he said that instead of anesthesia.
That soap is real good for you. It'll clean your hands good, and it'll also help you, because it's got that anesthesia in it. But it was a bar of dial soap with antiseptic, so it's saying like kills 99.9% of germs. But he's like, knocks you out 99.9% of the time with the anesthesia in it.
So that was really funny, and he said a lot of things like,
he did.
instead of wash, like I would say wash, but he said like wash, he said spatial, I can't even say
You
it.
hear a lot of that.
You hear a lot of stuff like that.
He never ever called a shovel, even if it really was a shovel, he always called it a spade.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he would say that for like even the tiller, be like, well, we'll till this up with the spade, meaning the blades on that tiller. I mean, just different
things like that. And then Mama told me that Granny and Pat both would say Clorox. Instead of Clorox, they'd say Clorox. And I was like,
that's true. I've heard her say, I need to get more Clorox. And I'm like, I can't even do it.
no.
Clorox, you mean? And I've also heard her say that peroxide.
Yeah, peroxide.
So
Granny has all kinds
instead
of
of peroxide, get some of that peroxide.
And they would say plastic instead of plastic. You have to comment below. Is it that they really just pronounced them wrong because they were saying the wrong word, or is that just their pronunciation? So in those cases, I think a lot of it is just that was their pronunciation, which leads us into the last part of this video, which is accents, which is really interesting. So to us, we think that there's a big difference between kind of a mountain accent, which is what we would say that we have, and then a southern accent. A lot of people are just like, okay, anywhere like south of Kentucky or West Virginia is a southern accent, but there's a lot of different accents within kind of the southeast and really just the south in general. Because like you would say that Texas was in the south, but we do not sound like Texas people.
So there's,
and they don't sound like us.
There's what I call like the southern drawl, which makes me think Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, kind of like a more like southern antiquity. Yeah, that kind of thing. That's what I think of when I hear myself. I hear more of like this country bumpkin, almost like hillbilly.
Well, but for us, I think we have more of a mountain accent.
Well,
I don't think it's super,
especially with the language, some of the stuff we say.
Especially with the language, but we have often throughout the years got a ton of comments about our accents, and we've had several people. I remember, see if you remember this, like in college, but even just in other places, say that they almost sounded like they thought we almost sounded like we went into like an English kind of accent.
Or like some sort of European. I'll actually, and if you don't believe me, you can go listen to it. You should go listen to Peter Frampton's live album, his Peter Frampton Comes Alive album. And there's a few words that he says in some of his songs that sound like, I'm like, Peter, we could have been kin. Because even though he is British, and that's where he's from, there's a few things that he said that sounded country, and that's weird. Sounded like something I'd say. I'm like, that's strange. And when he talks, you don't really hear the British accent. You hear more like me. Or when he sings, but then when he talks, then he's definitely back to a more formal British accent. But
that's interesting. And there's just a lot of variation. I remember, let's see if you remember this, in the 8th grade, we went on a trip all the way out. You still awake?
I'm awake. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm getting sleepy.
It's usually me yawning. We went all the way out to the beach in the 8th grade on the coast of North Carolina, and that was the first time we'd ever been to the beach. And we were on this ferry, and on this, it was like the Sound. I don't know that we were really on the ocean there, and there was this guy, and I don't know if you remember this, because I think you were kind of on the inside of the ferry, and me and Mom were on the outside. And he was really nice, and I guess he was the guide, and we started talking, and it was really weird, because we got this sense like he was making fun of the way we talked, and kind of time went on, and we talked a little more, and then finally he, not in a mean way, but he asked, are y'all making fun of the way I'm talking? And we were like, are you making fun of the way we're talking? And we kind of talked more, and it was, within North Carolina, there's so many different accents, I'm sure like there's in lots of states, but in some ways they were so similar that we almost thought each other was making fun of each other, but they were different enough. I don't know if that makes sense, but like the way they talked sounded almost like us, but like a little bit different. So almost like he was doing a bad version of like our accent, and we were doing like a bad version of his.
Piedmont versus coastal versus mountain.
So even
region.
within the state of North Carolina, there was such a difference on the, extreme ends. Us being on the far western and him being on the east.
I'll tell you, to sum this up, one last thing about accent, something funny Nick told me. And Nick does have an accent, but he doesn't have one probably, what would you say, as prominent or as thick as mine. And sometimes I feel like I have a thicker accent than anybody in the family, that mine's a little thicker than yours and Mom and Dad's. And so one day we started talking about accents or something, and he's so funny. He was like, Katie, he said, I think you were just one of those kids that, and he said, we all did it because we were all proud of our heritage and proud of where we come from. And he said, I think you're just one of them kids that kind of hammed up the country accent, and he said he drives a school bus. That's what he does for a living. Works in a school system and then drives a school bus in the evening and in the morning. And he said some of them kids on my bus would be like, "That's right, we're from a country, yeehaw, biscuits and cornbread." And like he'll just laugh like that, make fun of it. And he said, he's like, "I think it's possible that you're one of those kids, but everybody else, it didn't stick, and it stuck with you, and you can't get rid of it. And now you're just stuck like that because that's what you sound like." And I was like, I don't think I was one of those kids that hammed it up. I just think I really talk like this, and I don't hear it. Of course, I hear it when I'm played back, and I think I sound like the most uneducated ignoramus that there ever was. I sound like I ought to have my head in a trash can. But I can't help it. I mean, it's just a thing. So even Nick sometimes gives me a hard time, and he's like, "Katie, slow down. You talk really fast."
We do talk
I don't
fast.
understand what you're saying. And I do think that's a southern thing, like that rapid fire, quick, real fast. Because like all the other places I've been, out west, up north, they don't just... I mean, I can get together like with Corey or with my cousin, and it's just like, and hey, did I tell you about this? And then this one time when I went to the mailbox, and last week when I went to the mailbox, I saw your mom at the mailbox, and she told me about somebody she saw at the mailbox, and it can just get
really
crazy.
fast, for sure.
I like it though. I like that. Just da 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 da. Ooh, I'm packing it in.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for Appalachian language, and just each way each person talks, whether that's kind of here in the South or other parts of the country, let alone other parts of the world. And it's very interesting. You got to comment below, let us know if there's any words that you just say that are just kind of plain wrong, but it's just what you grow up with. It's what you grow up with hearing. It's how your parents sound, how your family sounds, and it's really interesting. Each person has such a different voice, and it's just such a culmination of their life, and I think that's really special. Even us, we sound a lot alike, being twins, raised in virtually the exact same environment, but I think we still sound different. So you have to comment below, let us know what you think. Let us know if you enjoyed this video.
Or if you think I should stick my head in a trash can.
Yeah,
and if I get enough money, I might.
Yeah.
But I'll pick the trash
if we
can.
get enough likes, we'll put Katie's head in a trash can.
How many likes?
2.
No! If I get 800
kidding.
likes on this video, I'm gonna stick my head in a trash can.
We better end this video. It's going down the...
It's going
in the trash
Yeah, I
bag?
don't know.
So comment below, let us know what you think. As always, thank you for watching.
$1.
God bless you. God keep you.
Bye!
Bye.